Mr. Really Nice here. Hope you're doing well. Now this is the video review and discussion of the Microtech Assailant Credit Card Knife. I keep this little tool stashed in my Maxpedition Urban Low Profile wallet. It makes a really nice addition to this wallet, and I enjoy carrying it. And basically I'm going to break down this review as the first part I'm going to talk about some of the specifications for this little tool and talk about some of the testing I did, some of the practical applications you can have with this little tool, and then follow up with some closing thoughts on how I feel about it. Now I want to go ahead and say that I did do a video of this. It's up there on YouTube. I just did a close-up look at this knife. I didn't do a review of it, and there's some mixed feelings about it, whether it was just people didn't like the video, or I think it has to do with simply some people didn't like this tool. Maybe they thought it was kind of gimmicky because it is Microtech. Microtech is definitely a little more pricey, and there are some tools that are similar to this one out there, but not exactly. And Microtech does have a patent on this particular design. And I will go ahead and say before I finish this review that I do really like this tool. I think it's really neat, especially a great self-defense addition to a wallet. But first off is some of the specs are, it is titanium. I believe this is the third production run and style of this particular titanium credit card knife. The first production run was more boxy, angular, didn't have any jimping. The second one had some tools on it, like some cutouts for hex bits and other items like that. Now this one in particular, it just has two large finger holes. It has a sort of a thumb relief that I call it. It has aggressive jimping that is not too aggressive. It's fairly comfortable, but it's aggressive enough to where it does work. It's jimping that works. There's a bottle opener on there, and it does have the sharpened edge on here. It is chisel ground, so it's just okay, there you go. It's just sharpened down on one side, so it's fairly easy to maintain, which hasn't been a problem. I did put a few nicks into it because the edge is so thin. I mean, obviously it's such a thin little card, very, very thin, about not much thicker than a credit card. Extremely lightweight, being made out of titanium, and overall pretty comfortable in your hand. So that's basically the specs there. This is sort of the third style that they came out with. I think it's very comfortable for what it is, and the bottle opener does work pretty well, and it's a pretty good cutting edge on here. Now one big difference I noticed between some of the older models is this edge here is more rounded, and I'm gonna say they probably did that so it fits down in your wallet a little bit more easily without catching, without grabbing, cutting into anything. It's just sort of more of a smooth draw, and that's my thoughts on that. That did, I would say, decrease some of the cutting power on this knife, and that's where I'm going to go ahead and start talking about the capabilities. I think the capabilities are pretty solid with this. Like I said, I think there were some mixed feelings. Some people thought this is gimmicky. I know the bottle opener is kind of getting a little old on a lot of these tools, but it's nice to have when you want to open, you know, whatever, a Coke, a beer, and here it is, lo and behold, wallet. You know, a lot of guys keep something in their keychain, no big deal, but that is nice to have. But what's practical about this little credit card knife is I think it is legitimately a good self-defense weapon, because number one, it provides an extremely enhanced grip, kind of like a pair of brass knuckles. You drop your fingers through it. Very hard to lose this little blade. Easy to retain, hard to lose. It's very important in a self-defense blade. Let me just take a moment here to talk about the everyday usage and utilitarian value you get from the Microtech Assailant credit card knife. You do have the edges here. It's about an inch on either side of the corner. You have the thumb relief or the index finger relief, and you can use that for cutting and scraping tasks like that, but also you do have those large finger rings to give you excellent retention on this. So as for the everyday tasks, you can obviously this is a pretty decent little box cutter and a little slicer, and you can do quite a few small tasks, but as the name implies, I still feel like overall the Assailant credit card knife is going to excel at self-defense. Now I will say, when I worked on like survival type applications, you know, cutting into wood and other things like that, it's pretty rough on your hands. That's why in all the testing I did barehanded on this little tool, because something like this, most likely being in your wallet, you're not going to have gloves immediately to put on to work with this. So things like that, survival type applications, this thing's pretty rough on your hands, I won't lie. But when I chewed up a watermelon really good with this, extremely comfortable to work with, and that tells me that this is something that's going to work good on a soft target, and that means for self-defense. It stood up really well. It's very comfortable to work with, and man, once you get working with you know, what little bit of a rounded point you've got there, this is a pretty intense little weapon you have there, and it's pretty easy to get it ready, especially if you keep it in an outer pouch of your wallet. So the applications, I think, are pretty wide with this. Now, it doesn't have a lot of extra tools like some of the little wallet cards out there, wallet tools that you see, but this one is primarily, in my opinion, based on self-defense. Now, there are utilitarian purposes you can do, but I would just prefer to use like a small folding knife or a small fixed blade at that point. But self-defense, this thing, I would say, in my opinion, absolutely excels. It's easy to tuck away. It's pretty quick to get a good, solid, positive grip on, and you can, you know, jab with it, cut with it, work with it. Pretty practical to carry, in my opinion. So my final thoughts on this little credit card knife, the Microtech Assailant, is it is a little bit pricey. I paid about 60 bucks for this, and that was, I'm gonna say, it was more of a sale price. They usually can be much more expensive than this, but I'm happy with it because, number one, it's a really cool EDC item. If you get this out and use it or something, you know, somebody will look at you and go, whoa, man, what is that? I think it looks cool. And I actually think it works. I was able to do a lot of utility applications with it. Yes, it did get uncomfortable with some things. I did get some chafing. I kind of rubbed my fingers a little bit raw in some areas. That was some pretty hard use. But I have to say, after some testing with it and some self-defense type applications, I really do think it excels at that. And I think that's why it's a good item to have in your wallet, because I always carry a couple knives, and this thing, it's hard to notice in this little Max Edition wallet. So that's my thoughts on it. It is a little more expensive, but like I said, hey, you get the cool points and it works. That's my thoughts on the Microtech Assailant. You guys let me know what you think. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you can comment on it, I would love to read it and respond. Also, subscribe to my channel if you can. That helps me continue what I do. Thank you and have a good one.